Hello, Redbird fans. Welcome to episode 85 of Bird Fans Forever. On this episode, we're joined by former Illinois State women's basketball standout Ellen McGrew, a two-time Laurie Mabry Award winner and All-Missouri Valley Conference performer. Ellen was the leader on the 1989 Redbird team that earned the program's first NCAA Tournament victory and helped establish Illinois State as one of Missouri Valley Conference's premier women's basketball programs. We'll talk about how Ellen found her way to Illinois State, her experiences as a Redbird student-athlete, and the lasting impact the university has had on her life. Please welcome former Illinois State women's basketball star Ellen McGrew.
Hello and welcome to Bird Fans Forever, episode 85 with Ellen McGrew. Ellen played at ISU from 1984-85 season through the 88-89 season. Ellen, welcome to the show and thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. All right, so Ellen got to ISU a year early, kind of like Steve and John. So the three of them all started in the same year. And so I am the young baby of this group, right? The big baby. So, Ellen, we ask everybody the same question. How'd you get to ISU?
Well, that's an interesting story. So when I was a junior in high school, I'm from Bushnell Prairie City High School, so on the west central side of the state, McDonough County. And my coach was Cindy Schunkweiler Arthur, and it was like my junior year. Things were going pretty well. I love basketball. It was a real small rural school. I did all the sports, actually. I did volleyball, then basketball, then track. And she had gotten some pamphlet or flyer about it was like a USA basketball tryouts, when they used to have like regional tryouts for different teams, right, where they would do different competitions. And she's like, here, it was in St. Louis. She's like, here, you might want to go down to this. It looks pretty cool. So my mom and I went down for this tryout. And when I walked in there, it was like, I think it was like an age range, maybe from like say I was a junior, so maybe 16 to 20. I don't know if it was 18 and under or 20 and under. I'm not really sure. But a lot of the players I recognized from like the state tournament from Chicago and from a lot of those areas, All-Americans, parade All-Americans, all kinds of really great players there. And, go through the track. You got the little jersey with your big number on there and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I sprained my foot like the very first session. So it wasn't very good. I got cut the very first session. And then after that, I was just kind of coming and watching. And I was in the stands one day, and I saw Julie Stiles, Julie Stiles was a year older than me. Julie played at Richwoods. They were, I think, state champs that year. And I knew Julie from basketball camp in the summer. So I used to go to U of I's camp. And that used to be big for girls. That was really kind of your only option that you had, was to go to summer camp. So I knew her from summer camp, and I saw her in the stands. I went to say, hey, how you doing, da-da-da, and we were talking. And sitting next to her was Melinda Fisher. And Julie's like, hey, I'm going to go to ISU. This is one of the coaches, Melinda Fisher. This is where I'm going to go. I already signed. I said, oh, good. We're just talking. And then Melinda, like, where are you from? I'm from Bushnell. I played at Bushnell Bridge. She's like, oh, who's your coach? And I said, Cindy Schunkweiler. And she was like, oh, I used to be the head coach at Eastern, and Cindy Schunkweiler played for me at Eastern, Illinois. I was like, oh, okay. So that really kind of started a conversation. Now, I don't know if this is legal or not. She's supposed to be sitting there talking to me. I don't know what kind of rules we were under. We were having this conversation about my high school coach and that she played there and so forth. So she's like, hey, you know what? We're having a summer camp. You should come to the summer camp. I said, oh, okay. Because at the time, I pretty much just went to U of I's camp. And then Knox College used to have one of those Milwaukee Bucks medalist camps. I don't know if you remember those. I used to go to one there because Galesburg was pretty close to where I grew up. So those were kind of the two camps that I went to. And she's like, you should come to our camp. And I don't know if she mailed me a pamphlet. Everything was pretty much snail mail at that time. You came in on Sunday, you played all week, you went home on Friday afternoon. And so that's what I did that summer. And when I got to camp, then you do all the drills and all the things, and then they're like, hey, at lunchtime, the college players are going to stay and play. We'd like you to stay and play. Because once you're on campus, anything goes, right?
Wow.
So they said, hey, we want you to stay and play at lunchtime. I said, okay, that's cool. So that's what I did. I got to know the players, and we played at lunch every day. pretty much. And that's kind of how it was kind of like a tryout, really. I really got a 1 week tryout, even though they really didn't call it that, but kind of what it ended up being. That's how I got on their radar. To be honest, that was the beginning of. And my class was the first class to sign early. There wasn't early signing until the first year was actually in '84. So this would have been like the summer would have been going to junior year was over, so I was getting ready to be a senior. Yeah, so I was getting into early signing was coming up, so things were really ramping up, and that's how I ended up at ISU.
Very cool. Was anybody else talking to you? I mean, because it was harder back then, right? You didn't have besides, and like you, I went to Illinois' camp and Eastern's camp and Western's camp. Mm-hmm. So through my freshman, sophomore, junior year, as I started getting recruiting, those are the ones recruiting me until, by the time summer of my senior year, then everybody's, recruiting you. They all have stumbled onto you. Right. But so was anybody else talking to you at all, or were you just pretty much getting love from
I had gotten, the questionnaire, the ever famous questionnaire that you get from everybody. I think I had gotten one from Bradley, and I think I had gotten one from Western. Western was 20 minutes up the road, which, was really close. My sophomore and junior year, I think we played in a tournament like at Carl Sandburg College. And, we won those tournaments when I was in school, and they had expressed interest since I was right there on campus. And I don't know if my coach had gotten any other, inquiries or not, but once when I started getting Illinois State inquiries, and of course our old coach is asking, then it kind of got ramped up pretty quick. That the Redbirds kind of, and I kind of already knew now I knew the players. I had been to campus. And so
played with them at lunch, right?
I played with them at lunch. I knew, and we played after the afternoon session. We played all the time, and I liked all the players, and of course I knew the coaches. So it was kind of like a really good official visit that went from Sunday to Friday.
You never came back for official visit. You just
after I signed, I did is what I did.
After you signed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So they were pushing the early signing, and actually they did a home visit, which that's pretty common. They did the home visit before, and came and talked to my mom and dad. And here's what it is. Here's the scholarship and the things. And my dad had questions, and that was a chance for them to talk to them and meet them, and then. They talked about the early signing because this was a brand new thing. Nobody had ever done that before. And actually, that year, they actually came to my house and I signed at my kitchen table with them. You could do that at that time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they, let's see, Melinda came. Did Jill come? I know Melinda came for sure. And we signed it right on my kitchen table. Yeah, at the house. Yeah.
That's like out of a movie.
Yeah, that never. Of course, they ended that right now. That might have been the first and the last time you can do that.
When I signed, they just FedExed me my letter of intent, national letter of intent, which is crazy. That's NLI versus NIL. Could they have picked any other acronym? I mean, forget it. This is ridiculous. But
I think I signed the wrong one. I was a little too early.
Yeah.
I might have preferred the NIL, please.
Yeah. Would have been a little money
please.
There. Yeah. All right, so you get recruited by Melinda. Mm-hmm. And you were telling us off air that Melinda's the guard coach. And
that's right. Jill was the post coach. So, yeah, they were co-head coaches at the time, which I hadn't really heard of that, but I hadn't heard of a lot of things about college. I'm from, rural Illinois. We're out here in the cornfields playing ball, So I really didn't know, and it made sense to me. And Melinda kind of, like when I finally did get to ISU, Melinda took the guards to one end, and she kind of handled that. And then Jill took the posts to the other end and did their work. And then we kind of all came together and had with the game plan and all that kind of stuff. So, Melinda, my freshman year, was still coach of basketball before then Margie Wright, of course, was the softball coach my freshman year. And then when she left to go out to Fresno, then I think it was after, I want to say, school might have started my sophomore year. And the first team meeting we had was Melinda saying, I'm leaving. So I was like, I don't even know her down there, post coach. Who's gonna be the guard coach? So then that's when kind of things, Jill kind of took over everything. But yeah, that's kind of how that went. And I always tease Melinda, well, after 1,000 wins in softball, I said, I guess the softball thing worked out for you.
Did you have any idea that like you were going to join and be in the presence of two coaches that were just like iconic, not just for Illinois State, but like Jill is iconic in women's basketball?
Well, and stand up and show the shirt you have on.
Oh yeah, I got my Title IX shirt on. Got my old Title IX. So they had a fantastic celebration in 2022 for Title IX, and of course, Jill and Laurie Mabry and Phoebe Scott, and I didn't know them as well. I think they might have been, if they were around, I didn't know them. Of course, you're a freshman, you don't know anything. You know what I mean? Other than what you're supposed to be doing, where you're supposed to go, what time you're supposed to be there so you're not late. So I didn't know them as well, but I know they were pretty instrumental in trying to get Title IX, passed. And you don't know what you don't know. Even when I played, I didn't realize, in the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, Jill was the first president, and then she was president again. And these are things I did not know. And then I actually got it after I graduated. I was in college coaching for a little while, for about 14 years. And the very first Final Four I went to, everyone's like, where'd you play? I said, Illinois State. Oh, Jill. You play for Jill? I said, oh, yeah. I mean, of course I did. I mean, and I didn't start understanding the impact that she had until everybody started to say to me, oh, wow, you play for Jill Hutchison. Yeah, it's just Jill to me. You know what I mean? And so then that's when I started to get the bigger picture, when I got away out of the, you know what I mean? You can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. And once I got out of there, then I started to understand her impact and, just her and some of the big, the Kay Yao, the Pat Summits, the, who else was, they're the ones who kind of got together. I think Vivian Stringer in a room is like, because the men had their coaches association. They're like, we really need a coaches association to move this forward, and, she was one of the first people in the room, and she was the one that they wanted her to be the one to be the first face of the WBCA. So once you start to get a history lesson of it, then you realize, oh, wow, yeah, that was pretty special. I was pretty lucky. I didn't know I made the best decision my whole life at 17. That's been all day. You know what I mean? It was just, I liked their program. The program was a winning program. My high school coach, because she played at Eastern, knew Illinois State was like a flagship in the state. She's like, they do things first class. She had played there. She knew Melinda was a first class person, and you just don't realize it until you get there. And I just wanted to win. My dad kind of said in the home visit, I think she wants to learn, she wants to get better, but to be happy, I think she'd eventually want to play, which I think that's a good answer. And I think
fair,
it's a good answer.
Statement by mom and dad, absolutely.
She'll be happy as playing, and that was fair. I thought that was fair. There was a fifth-year senior. It was a point guard when I was a freshman, Kathy Beasley, who was a tremendous point guard, and I was happy to learn from her. And really everybody. We had a tremendous senior class. That 85 team was a really great team. 23-6. They went to the NCAA tournament when the NCAA tournament.
Let's start talking about the NCAA tournament. Your freshman year, we were looking up the stats before this.
It was great. That team was great, and they haven't had any celebrations of that team, and I really think they should, because they were 23-6. They went to the NCAA tournament when it was only 32 teams, Marla Maupin, that was her senior year, Vicki Vaughn, Kathy Beasley, Monica Rebbe. There was 4 seniors, and then there was 5 of us there was 5 others, and there was only 9 of us that were healthy enough to play that year. So 23-6, that's pretty good. And like I said, I was along for the ride, truly, just to learn and kind of understand that this is how we do things here.
And you guys played an iconic women's basketball program at that time, right?
Louisiana
Tech. Tell them who you played.
Louisiana Tech. So we had to go to Louisiana Tech and play, and they were the 1 seed, and we were the 8 seed. Which now looking back, that's kind of disrespectful. I don't know who else. Who's 23-6 is the 8 seed? But I guess when you only got 32 teams, maybe that's how it works. But yeah, I mean, that was Teresa Weatherspoon was their starting point guard. So yeah, I didn't do a very good job guarding her, but I missed a layup because I was worried she was going to block my shot. I didn't do that. I didn't make any shots, but I did get to at least play in that game. But and two, the crowd was amazing. And, you know, at that time, all the games were played on home. The higher seed got the home site. So I don't think
they pretty much still do that, right?
Well, in the beginning, yeah, it's they're yeah.
You and I were talking about the Caitlin Clark, and I
yeah,
to go to
yeah,
Caitlin
those
Clark.
top four.
That's the highest video we have on Bird Fans Forever, by far, like 10x. And so we do want to, and I memorize your stats. Ellen was 0 for 2 for the floor, 2 for 2 for the free throw line. Not bad. She was afraid she could get her shit thrown out of the gym. That's okay.
I'm sure somebody blocked my shot.
2 assists, 1 turnover, 1 foul, 2 steals in 12 minutes of play. So not a bad stat line for a freshman.
Listen, it was amazing, like you said, to play in such an iconic place, and it was packed. You know, the crowd was loud, and it probably was the most people I'd ever played in front of at that time in my life.
Let's teach John math here.
What's that?
2 is greater than 1.
Well,
right?
last time I checked.
That means 2 NCAA tournament trips is greater than 1 NCAA tournament trip.
This is a family show, Steve, so I won't give you the one finger I should be giving you right now.
Yeah, and then, you know, I was lucky enough, you know, well, I don't know if that's lucky, but because I blew my knee out my 4th year, you know, I got to play a 5th year, and so then we go back to the NCAA tournament my 5th year and play a game at home.
We got a podcast to do here.
I know.
Jump ahead. We're saving that for session 3 of this. Stay with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't get to go to 2. She played in 4 games.
3.
Did you lose your senior year? Did you lose your first round game?
No, we won. Well, I've only played in 3 NCAA tournament games, so 1 my freshman year and 2 my senior year.
Oh, I thought you guys won your freshman year. Did you not get into the second game?
My freshman year, we lost to Louisiana Tech there.
Oh, you drew them first. That's right.
We drew them first. And then my senior year, we were up to 48 teams my senior year. We weren't quite to 64, but we were at 48. So the higher seeds all got byes. So so we got to host a game.
So I know, Ellen, you entered your junior year, and I know it wasn't, from a record standpoint, it wasn't the best season. But you had a really good personal season. Let's talk a little about that. You were named second team. It was really Gateway. It wasn't Missouri Valley, but
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we referred to it as the Valley, right? Because in all intents and purposes, it should have been the Valley. They were just still, as a society, we're coming out of that AIAW. Ellen and I talked a lot about this. Steve, you and I and John had 20-minute conversation with Jill, and then how the presidents just didn't want to deal with the AIAW and just forced it into the NCAA tournament. So it was just a big mess.
Yeah.
We just referred to it as the Valley.
It's pretty much Valley teams for the most part. I mean, not now after restructuring, but at the time, it was pretty much what the men's team played. Like when we went out to Wichita, we always saw you guys out there or whatever. You know, I remember, or you know, you might be home, or we'd run into you guys somewhere else. So it was pretty much the same teams.
Yeah.
I remember running into Hersey Hawkins. Hersey Hawkins Bradley was at Wichita one year, and Stan Albuck got us all tickets to go to the game. We didn't have anything else to do, I guess. So my junior year, let's say my sophomore year, we weren't too bad. We were around 500. We had just lost a really good senior class, and coming off that NCAA tournament year, and then my sophomore year, not too bad, 500. I think we got third. Let's see, did we get third? Yeah, I think third, which was not terrible. But back then there was no tournament, so you had to win the regular season to get to a postseason tournament. And then my junior year, if you're going to talk about individual stats, then that would have been my best year as far as like scoring and being involved. I think. Well,
you led the team in scoring, right?
Yeah, I did that
points.
year.
That's a good, and assists too.
Yeah, but we didn't have a very good, successful team record. What were we, 12 and 15, which that's unacceptable for I just felt like in my heart it was unacceptable for what the Redbird standards were. When you look at, from, all those great AIW teams on down. And so, we get done with that season, and we're older, so a lot of us are still around for the summer. It's not as organized as it is now, but, we got summer jobs. Some of us took summer classes. We were working out. We were playing open gym. And we all took the record, and we wrote it on the toe of our shoes, 12 and 15. Because, those days I didn't want to, I'm so tired. Okay, I looked at those shoes. I was like, well, I better get my butt up. We're in the gym, because that's unacceptable. So we all really bought in. I felt like we really came together. A lot of us stayed around the summer and played and worked out and lifted and ran as we did. Too much running, more running than they do now. We ran a lot and really wanted to improve on that. And then we worked all that summer. And then the first day of classes, my senior year, I blew my knee out. So much for that. That was that's the way it goes, So that was kind of unfortunate. Now that team did go on to the NIT. They went to the NIT tournament that year. They got upset. That was the first year I think the Gateway had a tournament, and we hosted it at Horton. And they played Eastern in the championship. It got really hot and ended up winning by 1, which was an upset, unfortunately. So they got to go to the NCAA tournament, and we ended up going to the NIT. That was the year I redshirted. So that's kind of my junior and fourth year. And that was just unfortunate, that game. And that makes us all still sick to our stomachs if you ask anybody who was around.
So you guys said your committee stayed in the summer. Like, what was the difference between the 2 years? You said your junior year, the team struggled a little bit, but 12 and 15. Like, what was the difference?
We were young. We had one senior. We had a pretty good junior class. Susan Wellman was in my class. Amber Limbeck was playing. And we were kind of the juniors, I guess. I mean, there was other players too. Susan had a good year. I think I had a good year. Pam Tanner had a really good year. She was a sophomore that year. Char Govan, that was their sophomore year. Then Leslie Farrell's freshman year. And I don't know if it was just, I'm not sure, just need more time together. It would be interesting to go back and see. And it might have been those other teams were older. I'm not sure. That would be interesting to review. I just know it became very motivating for everybody because I just feel like everyone understood that was unacceptable. Being below 500 was not something that we wanted to be the standard. So everybody really worked very hard in the summer to right that ship, and they did. Even though I started the year, I blew my knee out. They still had won 20 games, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they won 20 games that year, that's a pretty good at the time. That was the standard. Right?
It's a really good year.
Yeah, to win 20 games was kind of the standard. So, yeah, that was a good year.
So then you come back your redshirt year, right? And you're probably rehabbing your knee all year over the summer. How's that go? And then talk about the rehab and then entering into the season.
Yeah, so the surgery at that time, and lucky that it was in August. I mean, I had it by Tuesday. That blew my knee out like it was like the first day of class, maybe Wednesday. By Tuesday, I was having surgery. Dr. Dessman, as we all know, everybody who's been on here has probably had Dr. Dessman operate on some body part. And back then, the rehab was much longer. So I was in a full leg cast for like a month, which they would never do that now. They get you up and walk you up and down the hallway the day of the surgery. So I didn't get off crutches. It was December. I was still on crutches, and this is from August. So it's just a different rehab now. Now, the knee did really great for me the rest of my life until just recently I got it replaced. But I was still rehabbing. I probably didn't start jogging until maybe like June or July that summer. So it was just really slow. I worked some basketball camps right before my senior year. And you know how you kind of traveled around and worked other people's basketball camps. I worked our camps and other camps and just really tried to rehab my knee, do all the rehab stuff. And then just to be ready for my senior year. So, everybody that I started with was gone. I was the only one left that had redshirted. So Angie Olson was still around. She had been injured also, and she was still around. And I think my senior year, she elected to help, like as a student assistant, if I remember correctly. And so she was still around too. But so my senior year was really Pam Tanner and I were the two seniors. My fifth year.
So who else was on that team? Why don't we name some of the? You had Shannon. You had
that was the freshman class.
You had
right?
Really good
freshman. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Pam and I were seniors. Let's see who's juniors. Leslie. Let's see. Leslie Farrow would have been was a junior. Missy Garrettson, Char Govan. Trying to think. I'm just going to look at the team picture. That's easier. The freshman is Shannon. Was a sophomore. They were sophomores, I think. Shannon, Luann, and Cindy Kaufman, of course, is a Hall of Famer. And then the freshman class, there was Tammy Balke was actually a freshman and ended up redshirting, which it would have been really fun to play with. Tammy ended up being a Hall of Famer, but she got injured in the fall and ended up redshirting. So Tammy was actually a freshman on that team, but ended up taking a red shirt. So she was around, but unfortunately she was injured. So that would have been really fun to get to play with her too. So that was kind of that team. And that was the best. My freshman year is really truly the best team I played on. They were 23-6. We were 23-8 my senior year, and then we hosted the Gateway Tournament. We beat Eastern the first day, and then we beat Southern in the championship game, and then hosted the first round of the NCAA Tournament at home when it was still 48 teams in the tournament.
And, of course, they always put in the paper the first game is the men's game, but they also put on the first Valley Tournament as the men's tournament, which is not true. You are the first Valley Tournament a year ahead of the one that I played in.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean,
and we'll have pictures up here when we're talking about this. Oh my God, Redbird was absolutely packed.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys had at least 6,000 to 8,000 people in there for that Valley Tournament game. Those pictures are impressive.
Yeah, that was really a good time, and our schedule was really good. My senior year, we had a really good schedule. Like we went out to Colorado to a tournament to start the year. That was great. We beat Michigan State out there, and we ended up losing to Colorado. And then the next game, we had a game at Western Kentucky, which I don't know if you remember, women's basketball history. Western Kentucky had really good teams, some really good teams. And we went there, and I mean, they laid the wood to us. I think they had like 60 rebounds. We could not get a rebound. So we traveled from Bowling Green, Kentucky to Columbus, Ohio to go to Ohio State's Thanksgiving. It was after Thanksgiving tournament.
Yeah.
And so we drove right from Kentucky to Ohio. And I will never forget that practice at Ohio State. All we did was block out and rebounding drills that a whole 2 hours. That's all we did because we got embarrassed at Bowling Green. And she was like, well, we got to turn around and play USC on Saturday. And we need to figure out this rebounding or we're going to get blown out again. And so that's all we did. And we had a really great game plan, and we played USC. Now, the twins were gone. They had already graduated. And I want to say Cynthia Cooper had graduated. I think that was that team right after her. And we had a great game plan, and we ended up beating USC in that day. And then the next day I had to play Ohio State, and we ended up beating a really good Ohio State team the next day. I mean, we were on cloud nine. And then we got actually ranked into the top 20. We just pushed into the top 20. Yep. And we had to come back home and play.
Wait. Don't say it yet. Because this is truly the last game in Horton Fieldhouse. Now, we've had 2 other games that the athletic department just wanted to put together. But you play in the last, because I played the last, our last game is against DePaul on December 2nd.
December.
You're now playing on December 20th in Horton Fieldhouse against
Oh, let me look.
a team you should have beat
Oh, in December, yeah.
just down the road from here that sucks.
We played Illinois on December 7th,
Thank
and
you.
we just played terrible. Lost by 4 and played terrible. I mean,
Because you're ranked 20th in the nation at this
20th.
point.
Yeah, that was boo. Boo. That was bad. Yeah, that was bad. I don't know if we were just feeling good about ourselves or what happened, but yeah, we ended up losing that game at home. We should have won that game. And like I said, Illinois has good players. Don't get me wrong, but you always want to beat Illinois every chance you get. And so that was kind of unfortunate. And then we kind of
But then you came back in January, right? And you played Eastern.
when we played, we came back, and then we started once we started playing in Redbird Arena, we never lost a game the rest of the year. So we did lose in Horton, but we never lost in Redbird Arena once we did the big move, which I couldn't believe we did that in the mid-year, huh, John? That was kind of wild, wasn't it?
It was wild. Well, it wasn't supposed to be. Remember, it was supposed to be done your injured year, my redshirt sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
But Redbird isn't done in time. It wouldn't be done until January 1st.
That's right. Yeah, and so I'm like, we're moving mid-year, and they're like, yep, we're moving. So I thought it was great. I mean, I loved playing in Redbird, and we didn't lose a game in Redbird once we started playing there. So it was really a lot of fun. I really loved, and we had, like you said, good crowds, and I really enjoyed playing in Redbird once we moved over there.
All right, so let's talk. You get to the end of the conference season. You haven't lost a game in Redbird, but 2 games before the Valley Tournament, you're undefeated in conference. You're going to go play which 2 teams and what's going to happen?
So the last weekend before the conference tournament was going to start, we were undefeated. We were 16-0. We had wrapped up home court. We had beaten breaks off of everybody, and we had to go 2 Eastern and 2 Southern in the same weekend, and we did not play very well. And I think we were just ready to move. We were ready to move on to the tournament, and of course, Eastern Southern's thinking, "Oh, this is our chance," and they did. They beat us. Let's see, what is it? 75-67. That was Eastern, and then Southern was a 2-point game. I don't know what we were doing. And then I remember walking off the floor. I think it was Carbondale. I was walking with, I think it was Chris. Was it Chris or Lisa? One of them. And they were like shaking their head. I'm like, don't worry about it. We got this. You know what I mean? I just felt like we were ready to move on. Now, in retrospect, I wish we'd have beat the brakes off them, because we'd have been undefeated in the conference, and that would have looked much better. But that's what happened, and I'm sure the coaches were all flutter.
Let's be honest at that point. Whether you're 16-2 or 18-0 in conference in this day and age, and in our era, it really didn't matter. It wasn't like we were getting a lot of at-large bids, right?
No, I know.
You might have, because you got ranked as high as 20th.
Right.
But for the most part, it just matters that you win the tournament.
Right. Yeah, that's now that we're in tournaments, which didn't happen before. Now it just came down to the tournament, win the tournament, and we were going to host both games, so I felt really good about that. And we played, Eastern first in the semis, and we played Southern in the finals. So
okay, so talk about that Eastern game. Let's go through that first.
Yeah, Eastern had just beat us, so I'm sure that the coaches were like, "Hey, we're going to come up with something." And we actually did come up with a kind of a little gadget defense, if I remember right. They wanted to get the ball, I think, inside, and so we decided to kind of play like we were going to play a player, but we were going to just kind of sag off and look like we were in a zone and just kind of do like this, and it worked. They didn't know really what we were in, so it looked, because they're in their zone offense, they stood around a lot. So instead of watching them cut all over the place, we just stood back and kind of waved our hands at them, and they thought we were staying there in a zone. And really, all we were doing just sagging. So if anybody just kind of cut, we just switched, and they couldn't figure it out the whole day. So that was a lot of fun, and we beat Eastern, and then Southern. We played really, really well against Southern that tournament game, and after getting upset the year before, I was still thinking about that. I was really upset for our senior class that year who didn't get to go because of that upset at Horton. And so I was really super motivated for that. And actually, I was really hoping that we would get that NCAA tournament bid, even though we're up to 48 teams now. But that was really special. Anytime you go to the NCAA tournament, that's a special.
It's a special
time. Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
that was a great. And it was on TV, which we're not on TV very much. It was a Sports Vision, I think they called it, or Sports.
Yeah, we think, but
something
you
like
gave me like 20 tapes, so I'm going to be spending the summer converting VHS tapes to digital.
Yeah,
so
that'd be
hopefully
sweet.
over the summer, these games are going to slowly keep coming out.
Yeah, that'd be great. I haven't seen them, so it would be really cool to get to see that.
So you guys were a 7 seed in that tournament, okay? So you moved up from the 8, and then you played the 10th seed, Northwestern State, okay? Who's also from Louisiana, right?
Yeah, they're from Louisiana. Yeah, I didn't really know much about them. We got some film and watched some film on them, and scored 100 points. So everybody played well that day. I think Cindy went crazy shooting the 3, if I remember. I don't know. I'd have to look at the box score, which I probably could. But yeah, everybody just really was like lights out. Everybody was so fired up to have an NCAA tournament game at home that it was just really a lot of fun. People were just going off. Pam was Player of the Year in the conference that year. Pam Tanner had a great senior year. And everybody was hitting to everything that day. 100 points, that's pretty good for NCAA tournament game. I was going to look and see.
So, Ellen, that senior year, that was a really good team, okay? You guys averaged over 77 points a game, which is pretty good. And you had 5 players that averaged in double figures that year. And then you go to the NCAA, you win the only game the women's team has ever won against Northwestern State, and you scored 100
We want to hear
points.
we want to hear about the stats.
Yeah, that really was it. We put 100 points up that game, which in Redbird, and I just remember the excitement. I remember just the energy, and Redbird was really amazing that day. And we just shot lights out. I think we had 6 people in double figures. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 people in double figures. Cindy Coppin had 25 points, and Luann Robinson had 12. Leslie Farrell had 16. Pam Tanner had 14. I had 16. Shargo Van came off the bench and had 10. And we shot 56% for the game. I mean, we were just lights. I just remember we couldn't miss. It would just seem like everything we threw up went in. It was a really great energy. It was super exciting to be back in the NCAA tournament. And for really everybody other than me, no one had been in an NCAA tournament game. I had been my freshman year, but nobody else had ever been in an NCAA tournament game. So the energy was really high, and really everybody was really excited. We did not want a repeat of what had happened in '88 when we lost basically at the buzzer to Eastern in our own house. So we were just really, I think that energy of not wanting to repeat that experience was really what motivated everybody that game. It was really, really a lot of fun to play.
And you kind of glossed over the fact that for a career you had 12 rebounds. And how many did you have in that game?
I've never had, I don't think I've ever had 8 rebounds before, but for some reason it says I had 8 rebounds, so I don't know what was going on there.
16 points, 8 rebounds. So you're 2 rebounds.
That's never happened.
Double.
It took me almost all year to get 8 rebounds. My Amber used to always tease me. When she was still around, she was the 3 and I was the 2. And she's like, "You're supposed to go rebound." I was like, "Oh yeah." I was out here, 3. I was always out there doing that instead of thinking I was a safety instead of going to rebound. So yeah, I don't know. Something must have motivated me that day. I know I did not want a repeat of a loss from the tournament the year before. So it was really exciting. I wish I could say that wasn't the last NCAA tournament win for the Redbirds. I really in a bad way want the Redbirds to please get an NCAA tournament win. So hopefully that won't stay there much longer. I would really love to see this current version get an NCAA tournament bid and win.
The fans of basketball, the Illinois State fans in the 80s were spoiled. I mean, both the men's and the women's teams.
Yeah.
Going to NCAA, they're winning championships, winning NCAA games. I mean, it was a great era just for basketball.
It really was.
Fieldhouse. Then the new arena comes in. It was just like it was a remarkable era. Like, people don't realize that go to Illinois State now what the program had in the history, including the iconic coaches we talked about. And your iconic coach introduced a new basketball, right? So talk about that, and she brings that in.
Yeah. Jill was on the rules committee, I guess, for the women's basketball. And she was kind of one of the people who kind of pushed, and I don't know if it was her idea or not, but I know when she was on that rules committee, she really pushed for the smaller ball, which I think came in, I want to say maybe my sophomore year. I think we played with the big ball my freshman year, I want to say. And I remember her coming in, and I was like, what is this? She's like, oh, smaller ball. Women have small. And she gave me all the statistics. Women have smaller hands and blah, 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 and this will be easier to handle and shoot. And I was like, I don't know. You know, I was kind of skeptical at first. Now you don't think anything of it, right? But when you had never seen it, or the thing for me that was the oddest was kind of the weight, really, not so much the size. I can't have big hands anyway, so I didn't mind the 29 ball. Yeah, I have big hands, and I could palm a 29 ball. It really didn't bother me so much, but I could see what she's saying. And now that I see, like, little kids play with the 28, and then there's a 26 and the 28, and then even boys play with the 28 when they're younger, which makes perfect sense, because then they're not getting bad habits, jacking up, because they can't jack up a big ball. So I get it now, and she was kind of one of the drivers behind that, which another was one more thing that Jill was behind that a lot of people don't realize. And I'll note she always loves to tell a story how when she was on the rules committee, there was a referee in some game, misinterpreting apparently some rule, and he wanted to explain it to her, and she was like, "That's not it. I wrote the rule." So she always liked to hit the official. I wrote that rule. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And so she always loved to do that when she had a chance. So you couldn't really get anything by on her.
So your last game, you traveled out to Stanford, right?
Yeah. So we played in that game. That first game was at home, and then we had to turn around and go to Stanford. It was 48 teams in that tournament, that particular tournament. And so they got a bye. So they got to sit at home and wait for us to get there. And I just remember traveling there. It was the next morning I woke up, I was really sick. I did not feel well. I hurried up and got something from the doctor. And then I think we had to get on a plane and get out of there. And so, we went to Stanford. And now Stanford was 1 year from winning the national championship. They didn't win it with this team, but this is the Stanford team with Jennifer Azzi and Sonia Henning and Katie Stedding, and just, I had to chase around Teresa Weatherspoon my freshman year, but I had to chase around Jennifer Azzi my senior year. So we played some Hall of Fame type teams, Hall of Fame players. We were really, really in there with some of the greatest, teams and players to ever play the game. And we went out there and I don't know if we were just tired or, wore out. We played so well that game, and I feel bad that we did not play very well that particular game. But Cindy still had a good game. Shar had a good game. I remember poor Shannon broke her nose in the practice the day before. And so we just had a little bit of this and that, and I wish we'd have played better. That's the one I had to end on, but you got to end something. Not everybody gets to end on a win, so that's what happens.
Well, and you ended up playing against the coach. Who was that?
Yeah, Tara Vanderveer was at Stanford at the time, and I went a big whomping 2 for 6, a big 4 points at Stanford. And the kind of odd story is my freshman year when we played at Ohio State, Tara Vanderveer was the coach, and that was the first place I scored my collegiate points. So I scored my first collegiate points at Ohio State when Tara was the coach, and I scored my last points at Stanford when Tara was a coach. So Tara was bookended my scoring, collegiate scoring from 84 to 89 anyway.
Okay, we wanted to then talk about how three-pointers have changed from now and then. So this gives you time to lean over and scroll. Okay. For those who have stayed with us this long into the podcast, Ellen is now scrolling through John's geek screens to get to the right stats lines.
Yeah.
We like to try to be accurate here at Bird Fans Forever.
Yes, we do. Let's see if I can get there. Oh, so close. That's how non-technological I am.
This is just
here.
riveting podcast.
Right, this is
information
riveting.
Right here. The great thing is going to happen is I'm going to edit all this out.
I had no idea they had all these kinds of stats, so I'm learning new things. Okay, here we go. All right, so the three-point line looks like the first year for the three-point line was 86, 87, which
Correct.
I'm not even sure I knew that. So 84, 85.
My
86,
sophomore
86,
year, or my sophomore year,
so it would have been
your
junior year. Huh, my junior year. I guess that was the first year of the three-point line. So it says annual three-point field goal leaders. 86, 87 was me with 3 whole three-pointers.
You made 3 three-pointers and led
The whole
team.
year. I had no idea. That's amazing. I mean, now that everybody shoots 3 in the first quarter.
Here's a question real quick for you. Is that the year we have switched over from the 29 and a half ball to the 28 ball, or are we still on basically the men's ball?
No, I think we're to the small ball now. I'm pretty sure we're the 28 ball. I want to say it was my sophomore year, so that would have been 85, 86. So I think we've been playing with it for a year, I believe. I could be wrong. That could have been the first year, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Um,
Did Coach embrace the 3-point line, or?
I'm not sure we knew what to do with it. I mean, obviously, I took a whole whumping. I made a whole 3. I made 3 whole three-pointers. So I'm not sure how those even came up, to be honest. I can't even remember them. I'd have to really do some digging to figure that out. But, it's not like now where, the three-point line is, it's changed the whole game. I mean, by last year, Knutson made 92. That's wild to me.
Yeah,
That's an amazing.
Well, and go back
stat.
to your redshirt senior year. Cindy leads the team.
Yeah,
With 27.
29.
Of course, Ellen was saying nobody was close. We did a stat check and
I had
did a little
whole
fact
11.
follow-up and found out that Ellen shot 27. So
I shot 27, but
yeah, you
Cindy
were
made
11 for
29, so
27
she
for
was.
41%.
Cindy was a really good. She was a really good shooter. She was a great shooter in high school. She scored a lot of points in high school. Was a really good shooter, and she probably would have had the three-point line in high school.
Oh yeah.
So I did not have the three-point line in high school. So
I also did not.
And I think and then that has changed the game. I mean, everybody's grown up with the three-point line now. It's just
100%.
they just
Yeah, we
have
had
it.
Elise Knutson on the podcast 2-3 episodes ago, and we were just talking about. I mean, she had the green light. I mean, she could put it up from just about anywhere.
Yeah, and and there was, especially in those NIT games, those WNIT games, they needed every one of them. Every one of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's a tremendous shooter. She's really fun to watch. And, you didn't dare shoot a 3 like in transition or something like that. Oh, no. That ball's got to go inside, then maybe outside before you would take something. Not anymore. You go down, you spot up at the three-point line right out of transition. So the game has changed a lot. And, three-point line, if that's a good shot for you, that's a good shot for you, That it's just really, really it's really funny to see that. I made 3. And, I don't know when those 3 came up, if we needed them or had to take them or what was going on there, but that's fascinating to me.
I mean, arguably the Steph Curry and the Warriors' success changed both the men's and women's games. It became. I mean, look at the shooters these days, both men's and women's. It's just
Look at Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's shooting
Just
from
sit
the
out there. It's,
logo.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There are some fun shooters to watch in the women's game and in college and in the WNBA, and just the skill has gotten so much better. The athletes have gotten bigger and stronger. And I mean, I look at that UCLA team that just won the national championship. Their guards were all 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". I mean, and, their post was 6'7", and their point guard. When they were doing the draft, Kiki Rice, I don't know, she got drafted. She's 5'10". We don't even realize it when she's in the huddle. How big she was. So that they're getting bigger, stronger, more skilled, more athletic, and more opportunity to play. I didn't have the opportunity to play from a young age. We didn't even have junior high basketball for girls when I was in school. I'm just a little bit of the beneficiary of Title IX, but just kind of in the beginning eras, not like now where kids just play. It's just natural. Kids play. And now you're having children of players that played in college. Their kids are now playing. And it's just really snowballing. We're really living, and we're seeing the kind of the fruits of the labors of Jill, of Beth Landis and Kathy Boswell and all those great players that came, before me. You're seeing kind of the fruits of that from them, driving the station wagons and pushing them out of the snow. I've heard all the great stories where they all wore the same uniform. Volleyball washed the uniforms and gave them the basketball. Basketball washed the uniform and gave it to softball. And, now you just, you just assume women are going to have the same kind of opportunities that the men are going to have.
What was the tallest player you played against in college? 6'7" to me, that's crazy tall.
So my sophomore year, we went back to Louisiana Tech for their tournament. It was like a Thanksgiving or Christmas tournament. I can't remember. We had to play West Virginia, and West Virginia had Georgie Ann Wells, and Georgie Ann Wells was the first woman to dunk in an NCAA game. Luckily not our game, but in a game. So we're warming up, and I'm trying to hurry and do my layup and look down to see if she's dunking in warm-ups. And I think she might have dunked in warm-ups maybe once or twice, because we were like, ooh, I'd never seen a woman that big, number one. I'd certainly never seen one dunk. And then one time in the game, there was a transition. Let me think what happened. Oh, there was a steal, and she hadn't transitioned yet. She was she's 6'7", so it took her a minute. So, and there was a turnover right at half court. So she turned around and started running. And I said, oh. And so I'm running. And I thought, oh, man, I don't want to be in some picture with her dunking on me. Right? So I'm like, oh, no. And she ended up bobbling the ball on the way up. And I was like, ooh, shoo. And my teammates ran back and they're like, ooh, shoo. That was close. I said, I know. I was almost in a poster when there wasn't even posters around. So, yeah. So she was the biggest player I ever saw. And even my freshman year when we went to Louisiana Tech and played, like Tori Harrison was 6'4" and really big and strong. And Erica Westbrook, she played on that team. She was 6'2" or 6'3". And that's when those elite teams had big players. And that was the first time I'd really seen anybody that big before.
Yeah, but now it's like, but most schools have a 6'2" player. That's pretty common. But it just seems like it was around 6 foot, like when you guys are playing. Most of the teams that was the center.
Yeah, when I signed my freshman year, that early signing, they called me 5'8", which that's an inch lie. But they're like, Illinois State, this is the tallest point guard Illinois State's ever signed, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. So I've shrunk over the years, of course. I think I was 5'8" all the way along, but. Yeah, that was just kind of shows you, kind of we're transitioning in that era. And then by the time Cindy came along, she was a good, I would say 5'10", and she's out there just shooting threes like it's nothing. And 5'10", before that, Susan was 5'10". She was player of the year in the conference, and she was playing inside, pretty much a 4 player all the time. So it just switches that quick, and the skill has gotten better. And I was really fortunate. I mean, I'm really lucky. I played with a lot of Hall of Famers ahead of me and behind me, some great players, and you don't win games without great players, and that's just how it goes. And I was really fortunate, and I feel really lucky to have not just played here, but played with a lot of really great players.
All right, Ellen, this is the part of the ending of the podcast. We refer to this as closing, right? My daughter's a public defender, so closing arguments. The floor is yours.
Awesome. For my thank yous, I guess I'd like to start with my family. First and foremost, they have been the most supportive of me over my whole life. Eugene and Linda McGrew, my parents, my brother Dan, my sister Natalie. They've been there through all the ups and downs and joys and sorrows, and I'm truly grateful for having them in my life, and especially my parents when it wasn't really cool for girls to be doing sports. Every time there was something going on at the rec center or the rec program, they let me sign up for every single thing without question, and I really appreciate their support. After that, I would say on to my Redbird family, which I wouldn't be here without the Redbird family, obviously. ISU, I guess I'm really lucky to even gone to ISU because they were leaders in women's sports before it was cool as well. I feel like my parents, they kind of invested in women's sports before it was even a cool thing to do. So I was really fortunate to even be there to start with. So thank you to ISU for always supporting women's sports and getting behind it even before you had to. As far as from there, I guess I would slide on to the administrators. Linda Herman was administrator the whole time I was in school, and she was always very supportive of not just basketball but all women's sports. And thank you, Linda, for all that. My coaches, obviously, it started in high school with Cindy Arthur and Gail Hanneman. And if Melinda Fisher hadn't coached Cindy Arthur in college, I'm not sure I would be here. So, Melinda, thanks for finding me and getting me in the fold. I'm truly grateful. Jill Hutchison, thank you for all your love and support over the years, obviously. Not only have you been a coach, but a mentor and a role model, and now a friend, which I'm truly grateful for that. I had a lot of assistant coaches over the years. Lisa Robinson was kind of the one who was there through the whole time, correcting my shot and fixing my defense for sure. And truly grateful to Lisa for all her dedication. And then, especially my last year, the training staff. Kathy Schneedwin is a legend at ISU. If you were an athlete at ISU, you probably ran across Kathy Schneedwin, who's just a remarkable human, and kind of pieced me together with lots of bags of ice and kept me going through my fifth year after a blown knee. My fourth year really kept me moving in the right direction. So thank you to Kathy for all of that. And then last but least, my peers, my teammates, the managers, all the people that went through the days in, the days out, the 6 a.m. running, the weights, all the stuff that you go through just to get yourself ready. And truly, if there was ever people that are in your life who are just friends, but then they become family, and that's what my teammates were. They're great players. I played with some of the best players to ever play at ISU, and not only just were they the best players, they were the best human beings as well. So it's a sisterhood that I'm truly privileged to be a part of, and some of them have been friends for 40 years. They've seen me through all my joys and sorrows, not just when I was in school, but since then. And every time we get together, it is the most fun ever. The stories from college get bigger, just like a fish story. They get bigger and better and funnier every time we get together. So if there was ever a chosen family, it's my teammates, and I'm truly grateful to have them in my life. And I also like to thank John for doing this podcast. Obviously, I love ISU and I love being a Redbird, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to have me on today. So thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for being on Bird Fans Forever. This is episode 85 with Ellen McGrew. She played from 85 to 89. She's on 84. Thank you for the correction. 84 to 89. She's on 2 NCAA teams, and she's got the only women's NCAA win. So thank you. John, hit it, baby.